Hello and welcome to the 20th round of the 2016 PCC Cup Series here at the inaugural round of Massachusetts at the Cape Cod Motorsports Park. Qualifying on the pole is Gaspar de Souza, trying to rebound from a bad finish at Indianapolis, and James Hewitt on his outside. Ben Atkins and Israel Bruce make it a TBA Road 2. Now this track was built following the 2014 season, and this is the first PCC Cup Series race here. The track has been used in the last season for some sports car races, but this is the first time it's being used in PCC Cup Series competition. Good qualifying effort by Gareth Hunt there in 11th. Clay Gibson in row 7 was supposed to run the PCC Europe race, which occurred earlier today at Catalunya, but Jan Schmidt qualified on the pole there. Grigory Novakovsky on his outside. Clara Kindall, the points leader coming into this race, had some issues with her car, would have to bring her car into the pits, and Christopher Loxonen would win the race and would take over the points lead. Only 5 drivers are mathematically eligible to win the PCC Europe Championship with just 2 races left, that being Spa and Monaco. So that championship is going to be very interesting. We will actually be broadcasting the Monaco race, which will occur in a few weeks' time. As we get towards the rear of the field here, we've got Kelly Blackwater and Ben Worthington not having great qualifying efforts. Cale Bernhardt Jr. never qualifies well at this track. Or at road courses in general. Barry Juvenile, we'll get to his situation later on. Poor effort by John Jefferson, and rounding out the field is Hank Jr. Wheat Farmer once again as he struggles to get a hold of these road courses. And with that, Gaspar de Souza with the second pole of the year is going to bring the field down to the green flag. He gets a good jump over James Hewitt on the outside, and he's going to pull away coming into turn number 1. 2 by 2 all the way through the field. Looks like we've got a little 3 wide in the back, but Gaspar de Souza pulling away. Ben Atkins is going to take the inside and take second place away from Hewitt. We've got some contact in the back, but Gaspar de Souza starts to gap the field just a little bit coming down this long straightaway towards the Northeast Grand sign there. Oh, we've got Kyle McWella getting spun by Alex Phillips there. That's Gaspar de Souza's teammate. McWella's going to keep going with a little bit of front and rear end damage, and it looks like we've got another incident there with Cale Bernhardt Jr. Going to see what happened there. Oh, just looks like Jerry Myatt got into him. And Alex Phillips merges into traffic. He's going to get pushed wide. That's Frank Azaretto, and he's going to get turned around into the sand trap. Alex Phillips is going to get it going, though. Gaspar de Souza, though, pulling away from the field. He's having one of his best years of PCC Cup Series competition. He's 6th in points. Doesn't have a win, though, this year. He's really wanting to get into victory lane, and this looks like to be a prime opportunity to do so, as he's starting to pull away from Ben Atkins and the rest of the field just a little bit. Gareth Hunt, battling for 11th place, makes contact with Tom Delgado, and he's going to go spinning off the track. Such a good run for Gareth Hunt, such a good qualifying effort by Hunt. Goes awry early, and he's going to lose all of that ground that he made by his qualifying effort. He's going to merge in right next to Kyle McWella there as he drops pretty much to last place. Here's Ike Durbin, your championship leader. He's running up in 7th place on the second lap, and as if the race would end right now, he would lose some ground as Israel Bruce slides a bit wide there. He would lose some ground to Ben Atkins, and he has been consistently losing ground the past few races. The gap is now down to 21 points over Ben Atkins, and looks like Israel Bruce is going to get him on the crossover there, so Bruce is going to hold on to 6th place as Ike Durbin is going to have to battle Ben Atkins today. Atkins, your second in points, has been on such a hot streak the past 4 races. He's finished no worse than, I believe, 3rd in the past 4 races, as he's starting to close the gap on Gaspar de Souza just a little bit. We do have one driver making their debut in the PCC Cup Series here this week. This is Carter Fitzgerald, driving the 20 for Matthews Motorsports team. This is the car that Ingrid Hadeland drove in the European Tour. Now, Carter Fitzgerald, the native Vermonter, currently participates in the PCC Light Series for Ryan Matthews Racing. Got a call up for her home race, and a lot of drivers and teams have been wary of her lack of experience, but she's been no worse than 30th in practice and currently runs 25th here today, so a good debut so far for Fitzgerald. This is a new livery on the 32 car, the Action Park car driven by Ian Elias, trying to bring some action to Tom Wilson's race there as he battles for 13th place. Action Park signed a multi-year deal with the 32 car to appear on this car a couple races a year, this race and the New York Auto Ring race, so excited to see a multi-year sponsorship deal come together for a driver who's been running pretty well. Now remember how I said I was going to get back to Barry Juvenile during the pre-race? Well, Steffens Racing has told Juveno that if he doesn't finish inside the top 20, his seat is toast. Juveno currently runs in 35th place, and it's not looking too good for him right now, as Gaspar de Souza continues to hold the lead over Ben Atkins, James Hewitt, and it looks like Louis Ballard's back there. Ballard has the fastest lap of the race, and the top 4 have separated themselves from the rest of the field, although it's not too far back from Ballard to 5th place, as Gaspar de Souza doing a great job here today. There's Israel Bruce in 5th place, just a little bit back. Brian Gallagher, winner of last week's race, is not having nearly the performance he was hoping for. He's back in 20th place, the worst running of the Griffith Motorsports cars, as he runs the Pokemon White 2 livery this week. As Cameron Taylor, another week in the PCC Cup Series, another top 10 run as he runs in 7th, directly behind his teammate Alina Lazareva, who had an excellent qualifying effort. Cameron Taylor trying to ink a deal for next season to run full-time, and with the performances he's shown so far in his limited starts this year, it looks like that should be pretty easy to do, as he runs in 7th place. Daniel Sharp, running right behind Carter Fitzgerald, was reporting some electrical issues, and there goes the car up in smoke, as Daniel Sharp's going to pull that off to the side of the road. Sharp has had a rough go of it the past few weeks. He hasn't really scored too many points as he takes the access road to get out of the way of some cars. Looks like the steering's having some issues on that 169 car, but Daniel Sharp, who had been in the top 20 in points most of the season, has been in free fall the past few weeks, and it looks like that's not going to stop here today, as TBA, Team Ben Atkins, currently runs 2.35, and Atkins is doing an excellent job with this operation. They've vaulted up to, I believe, 3rd in the team standings, and have set their sights on trying to snag 2nd away from Paloma Autosport, but that might be a tall order to bridge that gap. It's a few hundred points between TBA and Paloma Autosport, but runs like this today are going to help bridge that gap. As speaking of the team championship, Steffens Racing is in dire straits right now. This is Preston Bell. He's currently the best running of that team. He's in 31st place. So Steffens Racing, last in the team championship, is not really doing their case all that well. They're running an outdated car. This Tonnerre hasn't been upgraded in a few years. It is due for an upgrade next year, but I don't think that Steffens Racing is going to be around in the Cup Series to see that upgrade hit. However, the other team that's in relegation right now, Accelerator Motorsports, is making a case to stay in the Cup Series, as Greg Woodard is the best running of that team. He's in 23rd, so that's marginally better than Steffens Racing's best 31st. But I believe Dan Ferre's back in 38th place, and Kurt Pliskin's been running around 30th, so a little better than Steffens Racing, but Greg Woodard has been trying to put this team on his back when his car is not blowing up all over the place like it did at Indianapolis. As Alina Lazareva is going to be the first to commit to a green flag pit stop on lap number 12. That's a little bit early if she's going to make it a 3-stopper. Some teams have been discussing whether to do 2 or 3 stops this race, as tires are just going to be the main issue here. As Cale Bernhardt Jr. is going to be the first car to go a lap down on lap 13 of 54, and he's been in the wall at some point here. This car has been pretty sluggish all race, and I may say that there's a little something more going on with this car than just damage, as there might be an engine problem. He did drop a cylinder at Indy last week, and he's going to lay over and die for the leaders there on the inside. Oh, I don't know about that. He's still battling on alongside Gaspar de Souza, but he's going to finally let him go and slot in line. Tom Delgado back in his familiar place up in the top 10. He's running in 9th place right now. He would have had another top 10, I think, at Indianapolis, but got into the car in front of him, Ramsey Cockiner, and looks like he's losing just a little bit of ground, but Tom Delgado looking for another top 10. He is currently 3rd in points, having an excellent year, and it's unfortunate that he's retiring at the end of the year, going out looking the best that he ever has. Akio Gifu, running right in front of his 2 teammates, is going to break down and going to have to get towed back to the pits. Double B Motorsports, as I've understood, is not going to be returning next season. We haven't heard anything about their plans in the next year, as Kelly Blackwater and Barry Juvenile bring their cars down the pit lane. As on lap 14, looks like Gaspar de Souza is going to commit to the pit lane. He is going to pull a 3-stopper. It looks like Ben Atkins stays out, Louis Ballard stays out, and James Hewitt's going to follow him into the pits. So the leader hands it over to Ben Atkins, and it looks like Ian Elias is going to come into that lap, as Ben Atkins' crew is discussing whether or not to do a 3-stopper or a 2-stopper. They do have the advantage here, and it looks like Louis Ballard's catching him pretty rapidly, but Ben Atkins, I think he might go for a 2-stopper here, as he's got the speed. His tires haven't been wearing that much compared to the rest of the field. The only car that's faster than him is Louis Ballard, so we're going to see what happens with this. As James Hewitt beats Gaspar de Souza out of the pit lane by a pretty significant margin. He's going to merge in there with Greg Woodard and Gareth Hunt, who's managed to claw his way up through the field. But James Hewitt leapfrogs Gaspar de Souza in the pits. De Souza had a pretty terrible pit stop as John Jefferson cuts across Lewis Jones. Jones has none of it, and he backs into the wall coming into the final turn. That's going to be the end of the day for John Jefferson, who has been severely lacking in pace the past few weeks, aside from when he won the pole at Indianapolis. And his bad year gets even worse as Ben Atkins going on board with him. Oh, he's going to have to check up there as John Jefferson makes for the pit lane. Hopefully that didn't cost him too much time. That was a pretty close call for that 5 car, as Ike Durbin's going to commit to the pit lane this time on lap 16. And looks like Ramsey Cockiner is going to bring it in too. As, oh, that's Tom Delgado up in smoke from 7th place. Tom Delgado, that's unfortunate. He was having an excellent run, looking to capitalize on some drivers' mistakes, and just engine lets down on him. Such a tough break for Tom Delgado, as 3 wide coming out of the pits most definitely doesn't work. Sapphire Anderson and Andy Lambert get together. They're going to go around. Lambert does a 360 and keeps it going, but Sapphire Anderson's going to stall out there and finally get it righted. What were they thinking? They were bouncing off of each other. It looks like Josh Marshall and Sapphire Anderson were going to be able to make it work, but wow. Lambert turned left into Anderson as if trying to send her a message to get off of his door. That's a bit interesting, as Ballard and Israel Bruce are going to commit to the pit lane. Atkins is going to stay out, and so is Cameron Taylor there in the 39. As Tom Wilson brings his car into the pits, he's having a good top 10 run in that 31 car. Looks like Clay Gibson's going to stay out too. But Ballard comes out of the pits. He's going to come out behind the 155, but in front of the 59 there and the 12. So Ballard had a pretty decent pit stop, and he stopped later, so his tires are going to be fresher. So he's going to now have the chance to hunt down James Hewitt in that 155 car, as he's already been out of the pits for about 4 laps, as Kurt Pliskin's going to break down. Pliskin was running in 32nd place, so it wasn't going to be a good day for Pliskin regardless, but this is going to hurt Accelerator Motorsports' chances to get even more points here today. We've now reached the 1/3 mark of this race, lap 18 of 54. Atkins leads over Cameron Taylor there. He's got a few lapped cars between himself and Taylor, but by all indications, it looks like Atkins and Taylor are going to come into pit this time. And running in 3rd, surprisingly, is Clay Gibson, who qualified 14th, but has slowly worked his way through the field. And he's also going to attempt a 3-stopper here. Gibson, who abandoned his V8 Utes efforts to run in a PCC Trucks race, won that. And now he's kind of taken the PCC National Series, all 3 of them, by storm. Did an abbreviated run in the PCC Europe Series where he did quite well. But now he's running in the Cup Series for Clayson Enterprises, doing a great job as Atkins commits to the pit lane at the end of lap 18. Looks like he's going to try and stretch it and make it a 2-stopper here. And Cameron Taylor follows suit. As you see there, the crew decides to retire Kurt Pliskin's car. And Clay Gibson is going to follow suit. He's not going to decide to stay out and lead an extra lap. As James Hewitt coming around now to lap Kyle McWella, he's going to pass both cars and take the lead, as fresher tires prevail and allow him to gain some momentum on them. and take over the lead here as Hewitt looks like he's going to try and make a name for himself and try and snag this win away, as Cameron Taylor beats Ben Atkins out of the pits, as Israel Bruce is going to pass him there. Cameron Taylor going to slot in about 6th or 7th place with Ike Durbin right behind him. And Taylor, this development, if the 2-stop ends up being faster than the 3-stop, Cameron Taylor could have just made a race-winning move there. Louis Ballard is doing a great job here. He's up in 2nd place. He just ran the fastest lap of the race by 0.6 of a second that time by, so he is really catching James Hewitt, as Hewitt's tires again are a little bit older, and tire wear at this track is pretty bad. So you saw Hewitt there just in the distance, just rounding that bend there when he was coming down the straightaway. Gaspar de Souza runs 3rd. We've got Alina Lazareva in 4th, Israel Bruce 5th, and Cameron Taylor and Ike Durbin are 6th and 7th, as Ben Atkins catching Ike Durbin here. This has championship implications. These two are 1-2 in points. It's a 21-point gap coming into this race, and Ike Durbin battling back on the inside, but Ben Atkins, I think, is going to have the advantage coming into this turn. No, Ike Durbin powers. Oh, we've got an issue with Israel Bruce there. It looks like he's gone into the wall hard. Ben Atkins is going to try to use his teammate as a pick on the outside there. Israel Bruce giving him a bit of trouble, but Bruce is slow on the straightaway, and he just lets his teammate go. So Ben Atkins picks up 2 spots in 1 turn, as we're going to see what happened here to Bruce. Looks like he just slid it wide, and oh, Cameron Taylor put him into the wall. Rear first. We're going to go on board with Cameron Taylor and see what happened there. And on board with Cameron Taylor, looks like Taylor's just holding his line, and oh, Bruce went to cut left to try and make the turn, and Cameron Taylor just happened to be there. Now lap 24 going on board with Louis Ballard. You can see just how much he's closed the gap on James Hewitt in just 1 lap, as Hewitt is currently stuck behind, I believe that's Joe Craig and Barry Juven up there trying to stay on the lead lap. As, oh, that's Barbara Burt up in smoke. That's 2 of the 3 Double B cars that have had mechanical issues here today, and that's not a good sign for them. They're currently 5th in the team points. They might slip further after this. And the next lap, Mark Burt brings his car into the pits with a terminal mechanical failure on the car. They were trying to diagnose it in the pit lane, and they'd keep him there for the rest of the race trying to figure out what the issue was, but he would not see the track again. The only car that would be out on track for them is the 466, who managed to get towed back to the pits. Tough break for Double B Motorsports, as James Hewitt has been caught by Louis Ballard, and now it's going to be a battle for the lead here with James Hewitt trying to hang on. He's got Ryan Matthews right in front of him, but Louis Ballard breathing down his neck. He is the fastest of the cars, but looks like Hewitt's going to take to the pit lane on lap 26. That's still a bit early, as Louis Ballard takes the lead. He got held up by Ryan Matthews and wasn't able to mount a charge, but will take the lead here pretty easily, as 8 car is really stretching the lead. That's an issue for Alina Lazareva. She was running up in the top 10. That's a really tough break, as Alina Lazareva was looking at another top 10. She's had a resurgence in the standings. She's up to 15th after being mired around the 30s for most of the year, and this is going to set her back as Ramsey Cockiner brings his car into the pits from 6th place on lap 28, and Gaspar de Souza is going to follow suit after Tom Wilson brings his car into the pits. Gaspar de Souza is going to follow suit the next lap on lap 29. Tom Wilson pit from right behind Ramsey Cockiner, as Cameron Taylor continues to hold the spot over Ben Atkins for the 2-stoppers, but Atkins has caught him. Cameron Taylor's car doesn't quite have the pace that Atkins does, but his pit crew is much faster than Atkins's, so this might be a battle here before they make their second and final pit stop, as, oh, Israel Bruce gets in the way of Louis Ballard as he makes his way into the pits. I'm not sure what that was about, but this means that lap 30, Louis Ballard brings his car into the pits, and that's going to hand the lead over to Cameron Taylor when he comes around here. as Cameron Taylor is going to lead this lap. Oh no, he isn't. Mechanical problems on the 39. He's going to slow down, and he's going to have to get a push back to the pits. That's such a tough break. Cameron Taylor had the lead, was going to get a point for leading that lap, but his car decides to give up. Same issue that Alina Lazareva had, but this is actually going to be repairable as Ben Atkins holds the lead now, as Lewis Jones is doing some off-track excursions there. Whoa. But Atkins now holds the lead. Meanwhile, here's Carter Fitzgerald running up in 22nd place. She's had a pretty quiet race so far, kept her nose clean until that happens, as she puts Hank Jr. Wheat Farmer into the wall. She hits the wall herself and gets a little bit of damage, but that takes H.J. Wheat Farmer right out of the race. And Lewis Jones is putzing around there. We missed what happened to him, as her teammate Gareth Hunt, on the other hand, is having a much better race. He's up in 6th place right now, so Hunt is a bit off cycle right now, but it's great to see this 00 car doing what it should have been doing at the start of the race and running up in the top 10. Really unfortunate that he made contact with Tom Delgado there at the start of the race, but Gareth Hunt doing an excellent job here today in the 00 and showing what could have been had he not spun out. James Hewitt now is 4.5 seconds ahead of the 8 car, but that gap has been dropping every lap. So Hewitt might be under fire here in just a few laps, and that's going to be the battle for the lead once Ben Atkins comes into the pit lane. Now, after his mechanical troubles, Cameron Taylor currently sits in 11th place, doing a great job right in front of Josh Marshall there, and there's Andy Lambert. Still having a good run, but I think he's out of contention for the win as of now. So unfortunate for Cameron Taylor, but at least he didn't lose that much ground. Carter Fitzgerald gets instant karma by Frank Azzaretto, and she's going to go out of the race the next lap in the same exact spot that she took out Hank Jr. Wheat Farmer. Karma is a bitch, right, Carter Fitzgerald? Yeah, that's what I thought. As Greg Woodard now up to P19. Haven't talked about him aside from when we were talking about Accelerator Motorsports doing marginally better than Steffens Racing. Woodard has, if Woodard can finish this race as he leads the field in DNFs, this would be a pretty good momentum booster for him. He was running up in the top 20 at Indy when he blew up, so hopefully I didn't just jinx him, and that he can continue this strong run. Clay Gibson lost a spot in the last round of pit stops, but he currently sits 4th. So Gibson, and by extension Clayson Enterprises, not giving up on this race or on this season. Gibson looks like he's going to run more than half of the PCC Cup season this year. Didn't declare for Rookie of the Year, but doing a great job here today nonetheless. And the other Clayson Enterprises car that's running is in 11th. So Duncan Cobb doing a great job here today. You may remember he nearly won Road America, but was passed in the last lap by James Hewitt, so he is a capable road course racer. I just don't think that Clayson Enterprises equipment is where they want it to be right now. And by what I understand, or what I've heard through the grapevine, is that Duncan Cobb will be retained by whoever takes over this team, so that's promising news for Duncan Cobb, who's desperate to remain in the series. We've got Tom Wilson and Ian Elias running in 7th and 8th, coming up to the 2/3 mark in this race. They're doing a great job. I would have expected Elias to be in front of Wilson, but Wilson's Trans Am pedigree is coming into effect here. This is a long, sweeping road course, and as he's said, these are some of his favorite kinds of tracks. The Barry Juveno hot seat alert is in full effect. Juveno currently runs 24th place, right behind his teammate Preston Bell. Remember, the team told him that he has to finish in the top 20 or he loses his ride. And I really think that Juveno is a kind of driver who drives to the limits of the car. And I think that the car is letting down Juveno here in this case. Not Juveno letting down the car, as he's kept his nose clean all day. As looks like, we've got a battle for second on lap 36. And if we know Ben Atkins' pit cycle, he's going to be coming into the pits this lap. So this is going to be the battle for the lead, as Ballard just kind of drives around Hewitt, and Hewitt doesn't fight it much, as Ballard coming around, yeah, he's pulling away. Ballard with the newer tires is really going to take advantage of that here, and looks like he's going to take the lead as Atkins commits to the pit lane at the end of lap 36, and Atkins is going to surrender the lead once they come around and take that as Ballard goes by, taking the lead there, and Hewitt's about a second back right now, and it looks like Gibson's going to come into the pits too this time. Yeah, there he is. So the two remaining front runners who were on a two-stopper as Atkins comes out of the pits 41 seconds back. He's going to have to gain a bit of ground if he's going to make this work, as the pit delta is something along the lines of 50 seconds. And I think with fresher tires, Ballard will be able to make that up pretty easily. Here's a battle that's been developing a little further back. This is Scott Wullen. There's Gareth Hunt, Clay Gibson, and Sapphire Anderson, and these drivers are all 14th through 17th place right now, as Dan Ferre's a lap down, getting in the way. But Scott Wullen, there have been some rumors that he might be released by this team at the end of the year, and that's unfortunate because Wullen got a shot with Matthews Motorsports team back when that was the Motorsports team, did well, and just his career has not panned out as he expected. As Andy Lambert doing battle with Duncan Cobb here for 12th place, as the veteran's going to make a move on the inside, Andy Lambert, and he's going to pull alongside. This is a pretty good battle going on, as Duncan Cobb trying to fight back, but Lambert's going to take the position coming into one of the final turns there, and is going to take over 12th place. And right in front of this is Josh Marshall, who we saw before in that shot with Cameron Taylor. He's running right behind Brian Gallagher there, but he's in 11th place, doing a pretty good job. Josh Marshall's been quietly having one of his best seasons of PCC Cup competition. He's 12th in points coming into this race, and looks like he might gain even more ground here, possibly up even into the top 10 at the end of this race. Top 10 in points, I mean. As Ben Atkins, after his final pit stop, using Kelly Blackwater as a pick there, and is going to pass Ike Durbin once again for position. So every position that Ben Atkins gains from here on out is chipping away at Ike Durbin's points lead. As Louis Ballard coming to lap Greg Woodard. Remember what happened between these two at Road Atlanta? Well, Louis Ballard certainly does, as he dumps Greg Woodard out of the way. Retaliation for being wrecked and flipped out of the lead at Road Atlanta a few months ago. Finally got his payback, Louis Ballard did, and I don't think the officials are going to take a good look at that because, well, it's payback. And looks like Hewitt's going to commit to the pit lane for the final time this race on lap 40, so a 14-lap stint for Hewitt. And a couple laps later, he's going to move around Ike Durbin for 4th place. And Durbin slips back to 5th now, as Hewitt's starting to catch Ben Atkins just a little bit, but I don't know if he has enough time or enough tires to catch Atkins, who is something like 11 seconds in front of him right now. So don't know if he has the tires to do that, as Andy Lambert's going to swing a bit wide. Oh, that's some contact with Clay Gibson. They're going to go into the wall, and they're going to go around, as an uncharacteristic mistake by the 34 car. Didn't see the 77 up there, and 34 is going to try and come across the track to get into the pits. But Scott Wullen and Gareth Hunt are there. He's going to make contact, and Hunt's going to go hard into the outside wall in the final turn. Going to go on board with Hunt. Just wrong place, wrong time. He even slowed down to try to assess the situation, and the 34 just came across the track. His spotter his spotter must have cleared him, but just a bizarre incident that had no reason to happen, and that ruined Gareth Hunt's day. And he was having a pretty good day here. Louis Ballard is going to make his final pit stop on lap 44, so 10 laps to the finish. As looks like Ben Atkins is going to take over the lead here, and we're going to see how this pans out as Ballard there goes Atkins. So, and he's coming out of the pits already. So Ballard doesn't have that much ground to make up. He's got 9 laps to do so. And he's going to come out of the pits in front of James Hewitt by a couple seconds there, maybe a second or two. And Hewitt's already on older tires than Ballard, so this race is in... Ballard controls his own destiny at this point in this race. As Atkins right now, he's got a 7-second lead on lap 47, so just a few laps to go. 7 laps to go right now, and just trying to hang on. He's got Joe Craig in front of him, which might cause a bit of interference, but there's about 3 or 4 lapped cars between him and Louis Ballard back there, as Joe Craig's starting to cause a little bit of interference, but he'd get by. Next lap, Ballard has cut the gap down to 4.5 seconds, so he gained 3.5 seconds that last lap. This is not looking good for Ben Atkins, and he's going to need all the help that he can get. Sapphire Anderson's there. Scott Woolen is back there, but I don't know if Ballard is going to... if those drivers are going to cause enough of interference for Ballard for Atkins to hang on and win this thing. As Clay Gibson back to 5th place now, still trying to make this 2-stopper work. He's not going to win the race, but looks like he's going to get a very good finish out of it regardless, as he's got Ike Durbin behind him. He's been catching him a few laps, or a few tenths a lap, but still looks like it's going to be a good top 10 run for Clay Gibson, who's put this team on his back, as now the lead is down to 2.8 seconds for Ben Atkins with 6 laps to go. Lap 48 here of 54, and that gap is just slowly getting whittled away as we look at Louis Ballard and what he's got going on in front of him, as he's trying to be mindful as Woolen and Sapphire Anderson are battling for position. That is for a top 15 position, so he is being mindful. Craig lets him by, and he's just going to sit there and wait and see what happens. Barry Juveno checking in on the hot seat alert once again. He's up to 22nd place with 5 laps to go. So 2 more positions, and Juveno keeps his seat, or at least that's what the team has said at the start of the race. I'm not sure if they've changed their conditions now, but as far as we're aware, Juveno would be losing his seat at this point, which would be a shame, to say the least. He's been around the series for a while. As we go on board with Louis Ballard, and you just see how close he is now. He is really close. Lap 49. So 5 laps to go. Atkins needs to hold on for 5 laps, and with Ballard's pace, I don't think that that's going to happen. As look how much ground that he's gaining through the turns. He's really closing in there. Oh, wow. He cut that down to about 4 or 5 car lengths, as Kelly Blackwater is going to go up in smoke from 21st place. So that's a position for Juveno. And tough break for Kelly Blackwater. She hasn't really had any luck as... coming around through here. Looks like Ballard's going to make a move on the inside on lap 49. Atkins doesn't block, and Ballard's going to take the lead on lap 49. Can Atkins battle back? I mean, he's got worn tires, but he might be able to make a move coming down into turn number 1. I don't think he's going to do that, as he's closing up just a little bit, but look at this drive that Ballard gets off the turn, and he's just going to gap him, as Atkins is losing a lot of grip in those tires, and Ballard pulls a pretty big gap coming down that long straightaway. Meanwhile, Ike Durbin, the points leader, has put in a workmanlike performance here today. He currently sits in 5th place. He got around Clay Gibson, and he's just doing all he can right now to minimize any kind of points lost to Atkins, who currently sits in 2nd place. As this is the car that Barry Juveno needs to pass. Frank Azaretto's had quite a bit of damage on his front end. He tangled with Kelly Blackwater and pushed up his hood. And you see Juveno back there. He's been catching Azaretto a second a lap, but I'm not sure how long that Juveno's tires are going to last. And Azaretto's been much more consistent on pace than Juveno has, so it's going to be a tall order for him. As Ballard laps Gareth Hunt there, they make contact, and Ballard coming through turn number 1. Oh, he gets big contact with Hunt and Matthews. That's some damage on the leader. Is he going to be fine? That's some front end damage. And he's going to continue on. But what was that about? Ballard nearly just got wiped out from the lead by some 2 back markers. Wow. Looks like they just leaned on each other and shot across the track. I'm really not sure what that was about between Matthews and Hunt, but just a stupid maneuver with just a couple laps to go. You can see here, what was Matthews doing? What were both of them doing? That nearly just cost Ballard the race. Ballard did take a bit of damage, but ultimately he wouldn't have to come down the pit road. And Ballard, after that incident, he's not going to lap Barry Juveno. He's going to stay behind him. And Ballard is going to take his second win of the season in some interesting circumstances. As congratulations to Louis Ballard, but we had a battle for 6th place late in the going as Clay Gibson got caught by Tom Wilson, Ramsey Cockner, and Cameron Taylor, and would lose all 3 positions coming through the final couple turns. So a rough break for Clay Gibson, but it still looks like it's going to be a top 10 for the 77 crew in a 2-stop gamble for him. Even with that damage, Ballard still won over Ben Atkins by 8.7 seconds, but the officials would want to have a word with both Ryan Matthews and Gareth Hunt after that idiotic maneuver. James Hewitt finished P3, 3.5 seconds behind Ben Atkins. Gaspar de Souza P4, 31 seconds back. Still had a great run for him, for himself. Ike Durbin P5, good run for him, minimizing a points loss to Ben Atkins. Tom Wilson P6, great run for him. Ramsey Cockner P7. Cameron Taylor recovers to finish P8 after breaking down on the front stretch when he was going to take the lead. Clay Gibson and Ian Elias, 2 Aussies, P9, P10. Brian Gallagher finishes P11 in a quiet performance as Josh Marshall finishes P12. Duncan Cobb P13 was the last car on the lead lap as Scott Willen and Sapphire Anderson had their battle right behind the leaders for a good portion of the last laps. Andy Lambert P16 had a good run here today. Greg Woodard P17, good run for him. He needed this run pretty badly. Alex Phillips recovers from getting stuck in the sand trap on the first lap to finish P18. Good run for him. Israel Bruce P19 with all that damage, and Frank Azaretto rounds out the top 20, meaning that Barry Juveno finished 21st. We'll see what Steffens Racing has to say about that in the post-race. Now, taking a look at the point standings, Ike Durbin's points lead has been cut down to 17, so Durbin did all that he could to mitigate any kind of points loss to Ben Atkins, but Atkins closing the gap once again. James Hewitt P3, 35 points behind Atkins, and Brian Gallagher P4. Tom Delgado falls down to P5 in points, and right behind him, 1 point back, is Gaspar de Souza in 6th. Louis Ballard jumps up to P7, 4 points behind de Souza. Sapphire Anderson having an excellent season in P8. Ian Elias is P9, 4 points behind Anderson, and Tom Wilson makes an appearance in the top 10, just 2 points back from Ian Elias. Josh Marshall, P11, doing a great job this season, one of his best in the PCC Cup Series as of yet. Mark Burt falls out of the top 10 for the first time in quite a while. Andy Lambert, P13. Duncan Cobb doing a great job in P14. Barbara Burt had her mechanical issues today and falls down to P15. Alina Lazareva, P16 after her mechanical issues, and Ramsey Cockner 1 point back from her in P17. Nicholas Corridovos hasn't run the past 2 races, but still sits 18th in points, 2 points in front of Hank Jr. Wheat Farmer, and 12 in front of Alex Phillips, who moves back up into the top 20. And finally, taking a look at the team standings, the only 2 teams that have swapped positions are Nicecock Racing and Matthews Motorsports team, who are 9th and 10th. Clayson Enterprises has expanded the gap from 12th to 13th up to 99 points, making it a taller order for Accelerator Motorsports and Steffens Racing to claw their way out of relegation.